Welcome back to Godsgoldenacres. I'm Kim, and today I'm going to be doing a homestead tour for March. The last couple of homestead tours we haven't had quite as much change, but because we're getting into spring, we are getting many more projects that we can do outside and really get into planting here soon. So I'm going to show you around. First thing is we did get some rock put in. You saw how muddy it was in my very muddy, soggy homestead tour in February. And even though we got 4 dump truck loads, we're gonna have to get more. So we added up to this building quite a bit of rock, and it's gonna need more. And we redid the driveway partially. If you look, the straightaway there is still more of a yellowy tan color because we didn't add any more rock there. That's mostly dirt, but it drains really well, so that didn't become priority. And we added rock back here and back to the barn, so that hi Thea, she actually really smells like skunk right now, so I'm actually have to go in and clean up when we're done with this because I pet her, but what can you do? She's a hunting breed, so she's going to get some stuff. Thea, come here. Hi Thea. Hi Thea. You're very happy today. I'm glad you're happy today. She has been struggling with some hyperactivity, so we're gonna have to go get her thyroid checked out. But she's definitely perked up as the weather's gotten nice, which is always a good sign. Then back over here, we have started pulling all these cattle / hog panels out. The cattle panels are going to go into the garden to make trellises, which you've seen several other creators make trellises with hog / cattle panels and T-post or other type of post. Those all came from right here. They were like doubled and tripled up. It was a little weird process. We scraped this little composted manure out some more because it was creating pooling here for rainwater. And the next thing to do is pull all of these hog panels out, or cattle panels, and get this area reset, because we're mostly gonna have a hay field here and possibly some strawberries. Have pretty well decided that we are gonna start a strawberry patch because we both love it, and it is a item in our area that isn't much competition, so we won't be hurting ourselves by trying to steal customers from someone else, and we won't be hurting other people by stealing their customers, because we want to have a good relationship with the farmers around here, and many of those are our neighbors. We live in an Amish community, so quite literally I can go just to my neighbors and buy tomatoes and zucchini and green beans, so I'm not going to compete with them. And it is still quite the blustery March day. Whew. So we need to get that grass that we scraped off those pads over there. I actually think we're going to put some of it in the bottom of the garden beds that we're about to build. And if you haven't seen the video about that, I will link that in the description, because the first part, which I'm not done with, the second is a fence that we tore down, which is now fully into pieces, and I will be building this with Andrew. So we will use the boards and the tin to makeshift some garden beds for this year, and I am all about using resources that can be used. There are a few more over there, shorter pieces that broke. And then we're still not done with the chicken sled. It needs quite a bit more work. We need to buy more materials because we need more fence or chicken wire, chicken wire to go around it. Over here, I've actually already transplanted some cauliflower and some spinach, and it got extremely cold the other night. So I might have lost a couple of these guys, and it also got extremely windy, and a few of them, that one's empty still, which is why it's covered. And I had it mulched with leaves, and that's pretty well broken down really fast. But this guy and this one, they got damaged in the wind and their stems got pinched. So I wouldn't be surprised if we lost them. Over here, we had this guy. I wasn't sure he was going to make it from transplant because his roots got a little disturbed. And then several spinach plants. And it looks like the rest of them should be okay. I do need to remulch them because my leaf mulch broke down fairly quickly. I came in the greenhouse, honestly, because I'm cold. It's not quite where you need a jacket, but like the tip of my nose and my fingers are cold, even though like everything else that's covered is really, really warm. Because it's like 47 degrees outside, which is nippy, but usually just the jacket's fine. But I didn't wear gloves, partially because running the camera with gloves just doesn't work. But we're starting to get some tomatoes popping up, and these were the first batch of. Here are my Abe Lincoln, and then down here will be Brandywine purple and yellow, more Brandywine purple and yellow, Abe Lincoln yellow. These are all Sheboygan paste. Beefsteak, beefsteak, beefsteak. Broccoli. The rest of the cauliflower. Onions. Celery. And more broccoli and more spinach. And then I have pots of spinach. And then my lovely Valentine's Day rose that Andrew got me. And it's doing pretty good. I think it needs up potted. So I'm going to have to find a pot. And then I will eventually need to climatize it because we're going to put it out in the garden. And they say this is a rosier miniature rose, excuse me. And they say just to put some sort of wire around it in the winter and stuff that full of leaves to keep it warm over winter. So that's what we will do. I guess I better go brave the cold. Over here, as I squeeze between the old outhouse, which we actually realized isn't a hole in the ground, it was an old bucket system, so that's easier to deal with, because we were for sure that we were going to have to like figure out how to fill in this pit, and so we just left that up and locked the door to it. And then Andrew's like, I looked at it more. I was like, I never even looked at it because it was broken down enough that you couldn't use it. He's like, yeah. He's like, it's just a simple fact of moving it and burning the wood. It's like, that's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. So over here, I need to come through. I need to burn this. So I would like to plant pumpkins and watermelon over here, because this ground is super fertile. And the goal, actually, because we want to do strawberries, is to switch this around and get a driveway to the back. That way people aren't driving up by the house, and it makes it easier for semis to get into the back because we have an easement with our neighbors. And the semis, that circle driveway up front is so tight that it is hard for the neighbors to get through. So I would like to put pumpkins and watermelons, possibly some cantaloupe out here, and really just take out this good soil. Because we can't really scoop it off, because you would create drainage issues. So I want to use up the soil and then make the driveway in the future for that project. This barn, we're going to change where the door is, but we're going to leave it here because you can drive by it. That's not a big deal. And I think we'd like it to be the farrowing barn because we want pigs. So we would like to get some Idaho pasture pigs, and we'll redo this barn for the farrowing. So we'll have to get more tin, we'll move some tin, we'll put up some doors, we'll make some stalls. Because it was a goat pen, or maybe a sheep pen, because our neighbors have meat sheep. And her grandparents built the house and lived here originally. And then it was used for cows. So this is, the floor needs scooped. It is horse, cow, goat manure that I really just need to get into a compost pile. I have to do some more research on compost because I'm not the most confident there. But I'm confident enough that I can get all the information that we can do it safely. I have picked out a couple tools like thermometers that are on their way from Amazon. So that should be happening here soon. That way we can, over time, lay compost from this on the garden. And like I said, not normally recommended because these are from people who previously owned the property, but the hay came from our neighbors, so we can ask our neighbors what they sprayed on it, which it was alfalfa hay, so very little is sprayed on alfalfa anyway because it's a very sensitive plant, and it's all good because they do that with their own animals and use the manure because they have horses because they're Amish. So they have their horse and buggies and their pull horses for the plows. So everything from them is safe to compost and use as manure on your garden, which is awesome and good for us. So don't repeat that if you've just bought a homestead, because you can get some chemicals through the digestive tract, especially of horses, that can then affect your garden later. So be careful with what you're doing with what, and pay attention, because you can always have a hay field that you spread that out on, because that's what it's sprayed on anyway, and go from there. Oh. And then over here, we're just about to start the pruning process, but we did prune a little bit on the cherry tree. I haven't pruned trees ever. Andrew has, because he's done peach trees. But we were kind of looking at these trees on our property, and just because they haven't been pruned that well, we're like, okay, we're pretty well still novices. How do you prune a tree that's pretty well overgrown? Well, we started off by, you can see the buds here starting. So this is a live branch. So we cut off some dead branches, or branches that were becoming hollow. And then, before we do our pear trees, our pear trees, we talked to our previous bosses. So both Andrew and I worked on a berry farm, and they had peach trees, but they know pear trees because her parents then owned an apple orchard that had, I think, also pears and then like pumpkins. And so we talked to them about these two trees, and I have to send them pictures still. They're gonna give us some more advice on like actually where to cut. But so they are giving us the tips for these trees because they're a little bit of a pain to figure out. And that's a big tree. You can only take up to a third. And how do you get the right airflow when it's so tall and so overgrown? Because it hasn't been pruned in years. So, because we know we want to take stuff off the top because we can't reach it. And they just don't, even though they say you can use the can on a stick trick, I have not found that to be that useful with these particular trees, even when like you could shake the tree and it was falling off. It just, I don't know if I'm weird with the wrist and getting it popped up correctly is hard, but the can trick didn't work for me. So we definitely want to bring that down lower to where getting up on a ladder isn't that big of a deal. And those are our projects. Honestly, this is probably the last minor change homestead tour because it's spring and it's going to move fast. We have lots of building to do. So the plan is to do a weekly garden tour once the garden is actually up and going. We still have a couple weeks for that. And then still do a monthly homestead tour. So if you want to follow along with that, hit the subscribe button. Right, Liz? Liz, say, hit that subscribe button. Oh, you're just full of energy too. Are you 6? Are you sure? They say 6-year-old dogs are senior dogs. So if you want to follow along with that, hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit that like button. And if you have friends who would enjoy this content, go ahead and share it with them. That's the best way you can help out our channel. Thanks for being with us today. God bless.